Alright, today I want to talk to you a little bit about subtlety. And what I mean by subtlety is just that ability to discern things that ordinarily are very hard to discern. And so let me start with a little story here. Imagine you're in a world where there's a bunch of prickly things all over the place, and you keep walking into the prickly vines, and so you associate that you come across a rose or something, and you touch the rose because it looks pretty and stuff like that, and you poke yourself and you say ow, and you associate the rose with the ow, and you learn not to go around roses. Or you learn to put on, and you do that with all sorts of things. So eventually you get to this point where you're walking around and you're basically in like an astronaut suit, because there are all these things that are prickly, and when you touch them it hurts and it gets prickly. And so if you put a little suit on, a little buffer, some gloves, then it doesn't hurt you so much when you reach out and touch things. And you came here to reach out and touch things. You know, that's part of your intention in life, is to experience things. So you're going to reach and touch them, so you build a suit so that it doesn't hurt so much. And so when you have this suit on, then all of a sudden you can't detect the pricks. It doesn't hurt anymore because you have the suit on. You just go through life with this suit, and there's no need to be subtle because the suit will protect you. And so that is sort of a analogy, so to speak, of what we sometimes do with things. So if you could determine that it's not the rose that hurts you, but just the little thorns on the rose, then you could handle the rose with your bare hands without getting hurt. And then you could feel like the moistness on the rose, maybe from the morning dew, or you could feel the texture of it, and you could interact with this rose in a whole host of ways that you wouldn't if you were wearing this heavily armored astronaut suit. And so that is a very almost stupid example, because everybody, it's very easy to discern the part of the rose that hurts when it makes contact with the part of you that you don't want poked with the thorn. But there are all these other things out there, all these thoughts and whatnot that have similar. There are all these concepts, these thought concepts. Some thoughts hurt you the same way a rose thorn would hurt you because of the way you handle it. A rose thorn doesn't hurt you if you don't poke it to something where it hurts. If you prune the rose thorn or do something else so that it's perfectly safe. And if you get hurt a little, you don't freak out if you get poked by the rose thorn. You just understand that that's what a rose thorn does. And so the way you think, your beliefs have, and many times, taken things and associated the whole rose with the thorn, and then associated all of the thorn with the pain that comes from being poked by the thorn. And when really that thing, that concept, whatever it is, so let's take a heartbreak, for example. Someone who's been heartbroken a lot could associate all relationships or all things, or that could all come up around there, and they could start interacting in their relationships to try to avoid heartbreak, because they associate opening themselves up, being vulnerable, being personal, falling in love. They associate all those things with the heartbreak that follows. Now, if you could learn that that the heartbreak is not because this other person left you, or because you don't feel bad because you lost the relationship, but you feel bad because you focused on that relationship when you were in love in a way that was so pure that it allowed you to feel better than you feel when focusing on almost any other subject, because it was such a pure focus. And when that relationship went away and you you could still focus on that relationship with the same amount of purity as if the relationship was present, but you don't, because now you think about what you've lost. And so if you can take something like that, if you can understand that the heartbreak is not because you lost the other person. The heartbreak is because you allowed yourself to focus through and focus onto that person in a way that was so pure that you felt better than you've ever felt before, and that is the way you want to feel. Then you can recognize that you can access the way you want to feel without having it have to come from a relationship. And so you can make the subtle distinction between how good you felt and the relationship. So when the relationship goes, how good you felt doesn't have to go. And then all of a sudden, you can embark on relationships a whole lot more freely, because if things don't work out, or if you get rejected, or any of a number of unwanted things happen, it's no big deal, because you recognize that the way you feel and that good feeling has nothing to do with those things, but how you perceive those things. And that's a somewhat subtle distinction. And it's so easy to say, no, all heartbreak is heartbreaking. That's how it all is. But it's not. The heartbreak isn't what's heartbreaking. It's the way that you view what has happened that breaks your heart, that feels so bad. And so there are all sorts of subtle distinctions along those lines that can be made if you can start to recognize that things aren't just the way they seem, but there are other forces in play here. Your perspective causes such a huge impact on everything you experience, and when you begin to sort of take your perspective into account and view your experiences not as, oh, I tried that before and it felt this certain way, but as I tried that before from a certain perspective, from a certain time, and if I try it again with a new perspective, something entirely different can come out of it. And this is the kind of thing, I'm sure many people have experienced where they didn't like the taste of something as a kid, or their mother made them eat it, and so they associated it with a lack of freedom or whatnot. And then at some point, they tried it as an adult and realized, hey, I really like Brussels sprouts, or I really like lima beans, or whatever it was you were forced to eat as a kid that you no longer like right now. And so it's that same sort of thing where you can open yourself up to just looking for those subtle things, looking for like what is sort of the things you like. What is the essence of what you like about them? So how do you feel when you do that? And so you begin to understand that those things you like, the things, maybe it's the shiny new car, maybe it's the awesome electronic, maybe it's your favorite TV show. If you can recognize that your relationship with those things and how you see those things is what makes the difference, then you can let go of those things and not feel that sting. So it's sort of like, if you can have the experience, if you can experience those and know that it's the feeling that you're going after, then when you lose the thing, you don't really lose anything, because you still have your ability to connect with that feeling. So let's see if I can tie this all back into subtlety here, and because it's these very subtle things, and it's just sort of like loosening your grip on what it is you know, because a lot of times what we know is sort of this patchwork of experience and accumulated knowledge, and if we can open ourselves up to more subtle interpretations of things, and so like if you stare at a wall and the wall is blank, you could say the wall is blank, or you could like literally like look at that wall and you could notice the little bumps, and you could notice little patterns in the bumps, and then you could start to say what the patterns look like, and then you could tell a story about the characters that are drawn in the patterns, and all this could be born out of something that was nothing. And the point is not that there's a ton of shit out there that can be imagined, but the point is that anything that you see a certain way, and the way that you see it doesn't feel good, can be seen in another way, and the way that and you can draw up a new story based on that, from casting a new perspective on it, and from just recognizing that beyond what it is in an obvious sense, it is potentially many more things in a subtle sense. That's obviously a wall over there, but it could be a springboard for imagination, as it was in this example, or it could be something that for you to bounce ideas off of. But the point is that there is a value to be able to discern this subtlety, and the more subtlety you're able to discern, then the less often you have to wear those astronaut gloves. And it's like you can go from wearing astronaut gloves to maybe wearing winter gloves, because your ability to navigate through potentially thorny things is now better. You're a little more precise because you're able to pick up on those subtleties. And it's that there's a whole stream of potential there, and there's whole layers of everything there. And so this was just sort of an introduction, and I don't know, but behind everything I just said is a vibration of sorts, is a vibe that's emanating from me, that I'm embodying right now as I'm talking about this. And so if you ignore all the words and all the and all the hand motions and everything else, behind it somewhere is this very subtle thing, which is the core vibration of what I'm talking about. And that core vibration is one of great possibility and one of unlimited freedom, because it really opens up doors. There's so much there that we cannot detect because it's not within range of our senses. But it is within range of our imagination. It is within range of our ability to think about it and conjure a thought about it right now and start playing with it in our mind. It is within range of our ability to imagine what it would be like to do that and then feel it. And so the subtlety, the vibration behind the video, is yours for the taking, and yours for the seeing and embodying and experiencing for yourself, and then creating your whole new way of doing it because you saw it and then you made it yours, and you were able to begin picking up on what is behind the words, what is behind the demonstration, what is behind everything, because at that root level there's so much. It's ineffable, it's inexplicable. It's because it's so at the basis of things. And to just play with it, just play with whatever it was this was for you, and see what subtle things show themselves to you, what subtle, delightful, surprising things might come up, and how your willingness to pay attention to the subtle can liberate you from those obvious things that you do not want, but yet that seem a part of your experience still. Thanks.